Hello, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this session on unlocking the full value of AIoT at the edge. My name is Alex Groh. I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager for Cumulocity. I'll be your host today. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping items to address. First of all, we will have a Q&A later in the session, so please go ahead and ask any questions that you have in the chat as they come up. We're going to answer as many as possible towards the end. Additionally, at the end, there will be a brief survey just asking for your feedback on the webinar, and that will help us in developing future programming. So, we appreciate any of your input. To get to the topic at hand, obviously, we all know for the producers of commercial, industrial, medical equipment, IoT solutions have become the rule rather than the exception. OEMs that cannot provide their customers with real-time visibility into the operating performance are at risk of being displaced. Furthermore, advancements in AI have led to the next generation of IoT development that combines AI solutions for a diverse array of use cases like vision AI, anomaly detection, or predictive maintenance. So our session today is going to specifically focus on edge capabilities and the advantages of deploying integrated AI and IoT solutions at the edge. This will include a presentation and product demo from Nick Ponemar, Product Manager for Edge and Product Infrastructure at Cumulocity. Once the presentation is complete, Nick will address any of your questions. So again, please go ahead and share your questions in the chat. I'll now go ahead and turn things over to Nick.
Thank you, Alex. Hey, everyone from my side. Let me just go ahead and share my presentation. So we will be looking today in Edge and AI on the edge. And just my first brief introduction slide from probably at this stage, any presentation on AI would start with Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA slide that talks about how AI develops and shares his vision into, how this multi-trillion-dollar economy is growing. And we have seen this cycle, and we're actually seeing this cycle evolving right now from perception AI to generative AI to agentic AI and towards physical AI. And we believe with Cumulocity, we are here in a perfect storm to equip you to make your data available for all of this super cycle. And today we will be mostly talking about agentic AI, but I will point you during the presentation into an amazing video done by my colleagues to have a look into all of those pieces in the super cycle. So what is an agentic AI and how does an AI agent actually work? So it all starts with a user asking a question to an agent. Hey, for example, is pump okay? And then agent does not immediately respond by creating some generic answer, right? Firstly, it starts with reasoning, and agent instructs the LLM to create a plan for answering the user's question. So agent passes to LLM the user query, past interactions, so basically the memory, and any available tools for information retrieval. In the second step, after LLM responds with the plan, LLM may decide to invoke available tools. For example, agent uses digital twin tool to query current pump state. And in the third step, the tool execution, agent framework interprets LLM response, invokes the requested tool and then adds any output back to LLM context window. LLM would observe all the tools and response data and then analyze new information in the context and then closing the loop, getting back to the user. So reason, act, observe, cycle repeats. So agent delivers a final comprehensive answer to the user. For example, pump is healthy with explanation based on digital twin data showing recent measurements and no active alarms. So key advantages to reason acting loop, that's an intelligent adaptive behavior rather than just a simple prompt response interaction. And with that, we have introduced earlier this year Cumulocity Agent Manager. So AI Agent Manager on Cumulocity allows you to create, deploy your AI agent through intuitive configuration without any coding required. And it's a centralized agent management that streamlines your creation, configuration, and coordination of multiple agents. Seamless integration with Cumulocity. So with the tools part, it is built in, and you can simply give access rights to your agent to, for example, query for inventory updates or maybe some measurements or alarms, etc., without any additional setup. And then there is an MCP server support that allows you to simply extend those capabilities with plug-and-play tools. So this functionality is currently in private preview. And if you want to test it, please contact us to join private preview. So one of the core advantages of AI Agent Manager is you are actually free to select your own LLM and to use any other LLM, for example, OpenAI ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, based on whatever agent task there is. Configuration of the logic and access to API is also done through AI Manager. And you can also supply the context dynamically, right? So AI agent developer is all about supplying the correct context. And here you see how it actually works with this architecture slide. So black flow is a setup flow, and the green flow is a runtime flow. So setup, UI functions or microservices can call an agent, but each agent must be configured upfront. So in the first step, you would create a system prompt that defines an agent behavior. In the second, configure tool, what action it can perform. And the third, which AI provider to use. It might be OpenAI, it might be Gemini, and so on. And for the tools, you can provide any available tools on Cumulocity. It might be some, the measurement and our API available, or some custom-made tools that would allow you to access CRM or any ERPs. So for the green flow, that is the actual runtime when a business user would eventually use these agent capabilities. So it would trigger it with the prompt, and the system follows with the sequence. So agent interprets the user's prompt combined with its predefined system prompt, and then calls the configure tools as needed. All AI interactions go through the proxy server, which provides an unified interface to multiple AI providers. And our incredible community has developed an AI chat widget on top of the AI agent manager. So you can embed your AI assistant directly to your web application or maybe cockpit application on the Cumulocity side. And then device context can be passed through on the AI agent, no coding required, and it is available on our GitHub repository. Well, it's all rainbows and unicorns on paper, but our Cumulocity Edge customers would probably have some remarks. Things like, hey, actually, any API call to OpenAI or is simply blocked in our infrastructure. Or sensitive OT data must not leave the network. So there is no way I can make my highly privacy concerned device data to any LLM in the cloud. Another customer would say all monitoring and control must work independently of cloud availability. So we have a customer that is that has a limited internet availability, and sometimes his edge infrastructure would lose internet for hours up to days. And obviously the air-gapped connectivity by policy, it means many of our Cumulocity Edge customers would simply say, you know what, our edge infrastructure is not even allowed to have access to the internet. So what can be done there? You can create your own on-prem AI agent for your OT data with Edge server, and in this case, Ollama running LLMs locally on your VMs, so no cloud, no data center. What does it mean for you? You get privacy first deployment of your agent on the edge infrastructure. So let's first look into Cumulocity Edge, how it makes it all possible. And what you see on the screen is a typical user journey or our customer journey, how they start selecting the hardware first and the edge infrastructure, then prep solution, and to eventually do an on-site deployment. So edge components, or Cumulocity Edge component is all about bringing your solution to on-site deployment closer to your sensor. It usually starts in a lab environment, and the infrastructure is often a given to our customers. It means some would prefer Hyper-V, some would go with KVM, and the others would say, well, actually, we have a Kubernetes cluster, and it has to run and support all that. You have probably already heard with the latest release, we have delivered CLI Edge that allows you to deploy an instance of Cumulocity Edge on your own infrastructure without any Kubernetes knowledge. So how would I go about choosing between Kubernetes-native and Edge CLI? First of all, CLI gives me guided CLI-based installation, and it takes care of any dependency installation and so on. And it is great for simple host or hypervisor infrastructure. The thing that we will use today as well for this demo. With Kubernetes-native, it's a Helm chart-based installation, requires Kubernetes knowledge, and you would need to set up your own Kubernetes cluster. So, in order to make our data available locally for our locally run agent. We can kickstart with C8YEDGE install, and what actually happens in background, it goes and downloads the images, it installs a Kubernetes cluster, it loads all the images, and then deploys software and packages that it has downloaded from our registry. And then you would finalize with some configuration, things like DNS changes, or maybe your custom domain or some new certificates and so on, and then enjoy your ready instance of the Edge. And for that, we have a demo. I would hand over to pre-recorded Mario that he would explain how to install Edge and show you how it works.
In this video, I want to show you the installation of Cumulocity Edge with the C8YEDGE tool, which simplifies the setup and the deployment of the various components greatly. First of all, you want to make sure that your target system is ready for the installation. The target system might be a host or server if you're going to install Edge on a bare metal, or in this case, in your virtual machine like Hyper-V, you want to make sure that the virtual machine is correctly set up. In either case, you want to make sure that the environment has the minimum requirements given in the Cumulocity Edge documentation, which is at least 10 GB of RAM, 100 GB of disk space, and 10 processors for the default installation. Depending on your actual setup, you might have to make sure that you add more resources and that you configure the network correctly. Given all that, we can start with the installation by following the instruction on downloading the C8YEDGE tool. For demonstration purpose, we were using an Ubuntu version in the Hyper-VM image here, but you can use any Linux system that supports the requirements of Cumulocity Edge. Also, typically you don't want to have a full desktop UI, but rather a slim Linux version with a shell. But for demonstration purpose, I want to show you the Cumulocity Edge installation on a local browser. So first of all, let's start with downloading the C8YEDGE tool. Just follow the instruction on the web page to curl or get the tool downloaded from the download page to your local machine. Depending on your internet speed, that may take a few seconds since the download is a couple of 100 megabytes, since it will include everything necessary for the installation. Once done, you can check that the tool is available and go on with the instructions. Typically, you want to move that tool to some place where it can be found as in your path. In this case, we're going to just put it into the user local bin folder. Make sure that the install tool is executable via chmod, and then move it to a folder where you can find it again. From there on, you can use it as any other Linux tool by just calling it. It will give you a help with the available commands, and we'll continue with the install. As the next step, we are going to run C8YEDGE install on the machine and let the command install everything for us. For the installation, you will have to set some required parameters. Most important here are the registry URL and the credentials. The Edge installation will pull all container images and other resources from the registry and will use the username and password you give it for the connection to it. You can set these information as part of the command or leave them as default. If you want to check the available options and syntax, just run C8YEDGE install -h. As you can see, the default registry is registry.c8y.io. If you don't set the option, the installation will assume the default registry, and you will be prompted for the credentials during the setup. In any case, you have to make sure you have those information available. For the default registry of Cumulocity, you should have received them via the support. In case you're hosting your own one, you would need to check with your own operation team. Let's kick off the installation. Make sure you are running the command with the appropriate user and permissions. That typically means running the command as super user via sudo to make sure all components can be installed correctly. So sudo C8YEDGE install. In this case, I'm going to use the default registry and fill in the username and password in the prompt during the installation. I've been asked to enter the username, so I'm giving it that. As well as the password for the registry. At this point, C8YEDGE will download Kubernetes version for the local cluster. Then it will download the operator, set up the operator with a configuration, pull in all the containers, starting them, and then prompting you with the installation progress. Depending on your machine and internet connection, this might take a few minutes. You can see that the installation is done once all containers have been started. To verify and monitor your new setup, you can use any tool for managing Kubernetes clusters, which also includes the kube command control. This is installed by default and automatically. So you can use something like kube control, get pods, and give it the edge name as namespace to check that all the pods are actually running. Furthermore, now our new installation should be available via the browser. So typically you would use some external browser on a different system. And I'm using here a local Ubuntu installation with a built-in Firefox, so I can just go to localhost. Upon your first visit, you might be greeted with some warning message about the certificate, which we will have a look at later on. For now, just accept it and continue. You will be greeted with the Cumulocity login page. As the tenant ID, we are going to give it Edge. The username will be admin, and the password will be admin-pass. You will be now being asked to change the username and password. So if you're following the default installation, just use the default email address, company@edgeboostweb.example, and type in a new password that follows your password requirements. You should be now able to log in with the new credentials that you just set. And with that, we have already our base installation of Edge completed.
So thank you, Mario. And you have just seen how easy it is to actually install Edge and prepare your Cumulocity instance in a matter of what, 8 to 10 minutes. So the simple process here you would follow: once an image is created, you would apply any solution customization, convert it to VM template, and then deploy VMs from the template that you have created. And the next step in our solution customization would be actually to deploy LLM as well. So for this demo, we will be running LLMs with Ollama, which is an open source tool to run LLM directly on your machine. And it focuses on privacy, speed, and ease of use. So it's as well a CLI tool that you would install on your local machine. And it supports MetaLlama, and there is a full library that I'll show you in the demo where to find different LLMs, because they are good for different things. It has also built-in HTTP API for integration with your applications. It means that it gives you an API to access any LLM deployed directly. So no need for Docker or any heavy setup. However, for production use, you would want to limit any access capabilities that LLM gets. But for a demo purpose, it's fine to run it directly on your machine. So to get started with Ollama, there are 3 simple steps. You would first install Ollama, and then run the model, and then eventually call the API. And how that is done, we can have a look right now. So I'm here on my Ubuntu virtual machine. And the first step would be to actually install Ollama. But since I have done that, we'll save some time. But just for understanding perspective, it simply downloads the script and then executes it. So since I've done that already, I can directly run an LLM model locally. And we're gonna select the smallest model just to save some time. And it immediately indicates that I can communicate with this model and directly send a message there. Let's double check if everything is okay. All right, Ollama is running, that's a good sign. And by the way, a full list of all Ollama models that are available to run, you can find on their library. I've selected Llama 3.1 because it's the closest from the API perspective to OpenAI. Now we can start Postman and actually ask and communicate over the API with our model locally. Let's send. Here I am choosing the model. Here is my prompt, just a hello world. And stream false. Well, stream false means just that we're gonna wait for the full response once it is generated to get back, not like you would see with ChatGPT, where it actually types every letter in real time. So my response model, here is my actual generated text and then some metadata from there. So our latest private preview is how it works with AI Agent Manager, which would be part of your solution preparation step. You would simply go to AI Manager, configure your local Ollama, and it is now offline capable, runs locally, and no cloud is required. If you remember this slide, we have just applied solution customization. And by the way, it can be just one template, but it does not have to be. You can have multiple machines running on your edge. So one machine would be responsible to run your LLM infrastructure, and the other machine with Cumulocity, or you can combine those and have all of that on your one machine. So if you are interested in a private preview, please contact me directly or our team in order to access all of that functionality. And speaking about our team, how do we actually prepare you from the technical foundation to be successful in your IoT data management, your analytics, your AI, and your agentic AI? We have professional services team that can help you understand your opportunities, test and validate your ideas, and eventually develop a full-scale solution. If you got inspired by our presentation today and would like to apply for AIoT in your company, you can get started with fixed price discovery workshops from our professional services team. They offer you also fixed price proof of concepts. And we recommend to start small and validate your business use case. And then, understand that it delivers the value before going and scaling fully with that. Also, please provide us feedback if you see, if you have some functionality that you think is working great but requires a minor tweak, or maybe you have a full idea that you think Cumulocity should support, please give us your feedback. Also, in case of any questions or ideas, you can drop me an email directly at nick.ponomar@cumulocity.com. Please do check out our YouTube and tech community. There is some great stuff there as well. And speaking about great things, so in 1 week, we'll have another webinar that will talk about IoT data ready for AI, readiness for AI success, where you might learn how to turn your raw IoT data into actionable intelligence and accelerate your AIoT journey and deliver better ROI. So please register for that for September 4th. One more recommendation to actually have a look at our YouTube channel, and there is an amazing video done by my colleagues about AIoT, how to navigate next phase of IoT evolution. And with that, we're ready for questions.
All right, great. Thank you, Nick, for that the great presentation and demos of some of the capabilities within Cumulocity and how to move forward. Are there any, we had one question in the chat previously about making presentations available for download, and yes, we will include the presentation in an email with the link to the on-demand webinar that will go out a little later this week. But are there any other questions from the group? You want to go ahead and last chance to add some questions to the chat, and Nick will address them. All right, I'm not seeing any more questions coming in. So with that, I think we can. Oh, sorry, one question's come in. So can you mention a specific use case that you've seen? So Nick, what use cases for incorporating AI at the edge have you seen so far? What are the main areas you're focused on?
Sure, thank you, Richard. So since we have our cloud to edge continuity, the use cases are actually not that different. The main selling point for why would you choose edge infrastructure for that would be data privacy and the decision that your data cannot leave your promises. So one of the use cases, the pipe and gas stations monitoring. So a customer that is in a highly regulated industry, that actually from the government, they cannot push any data to the cloud. So what they have come up with, deploying edge on every substation and having local access with local UI there, and actually creating a chatbot functionality that would answer first question: is everything is all right with my substation? Richard, I hope I could answer your question.
Yeah, and it looks like we've got another question that's come in from Craig. Will Ollama on the edge only access the IoT within the edge device, or is it able to access the overall network?
Great question. It really depends on the configuration that you would go with. You can, if you, let me just pull up that slide. The last bullet point talks about no need for Docker or any heavy setup. Why people prefer to run Ollama and LLM in a Docker? Because you can limit what access it gets on the network layer. So it's really it depends on the use case. You can make only the edge data available there, but if you have a network of edges, it's really a matter of configuration, what kind of data is available there.
So like the answer to most questions, it depends.
Right. I mean, you can configure it both ways, but it's always the question, why would you do that?
Yeah, no, that just another example of the importance of thinking out what the ultimate use of the system is going to be, and what features make sense to incorporate, and what setup makes sense versus not, depending on the overall use. Well, it looks like at this point we don't have any other questions in the chat. So again, I want to thank you, Nick, for putting together this presentation and running the session. Thank you to everyone for attending, and your participation and the great questions from Craig and Richard. I've launched a survey. We'd appreciate it if you can stay on for another minute or two, just to give us a little feedback on the session, and this will help us in planning future programming and future sessions as well. But thank you guys very much. We appreciate your participation, and hopefully we'll see you on the next session with Rahul on September 4th.